So according to the program statement, we have to create an interface for the stack. Okay. So that particular interface means we should have a stack implementation. That is the purpose of that particular interface. So first we have created one interface, and we already know that interface is nothing but a collection of abstract methods, right? So whatever thing you are going to write here, all these things are by default public and abstract. Okay. So now whichever a classes implements this particular interface should give a definition for all these methods, right? Whichever a class which implements this particular interface should give definition for all these three methods, right? So in a problem statement it was mentioned like first class it should be a static, means size of your stack should be static. Second was a saying like you need to have a dynamic stack, right? So wherein which you are taking a input of the size from the user, right? And the third one was by using the reference of a interface, you need to call these particular methods, right? So first one is class is called as a f stack, which is called as a fixed stack, right? So when it is a fixed stack, you are saying the size of a stack as 5 elements. Okay. So in this case, you don't require actually BR, not required, because you are initializing a value of your stack size 10. So means you only giving a value as a 5, right? So now the push operation, when you are using, means whenever you are pushing an element into a stack, first you are checking whether it is full or what, right? If not full, insert an element into a stack, right? Okay, so this BR has been used to read the input from the user, right? So first element, whatever you will be entering, so that will be placed at the top of a stack. Only this one is a statement with respect to a insertion of an element. So this is a checking a condition whether a stack is full or not. Okay, so it is up to you whether you wanted to enclose these things under a try catch block or not. So if not required, you can directly write the things in else block. What is parse int, sir? See, how you are reading an input, you are reading an input using a BR, buffer reader, right? So when it is a buffer reader, the input will be taken as a string, right? Even though if you are entering a 1 2 3 something like that, so it will be considered as a string itself, right? My intention is don't consider my input as a string. Whatever input I am going to pass, right? So br dot read line, that means whatever you are going to read from the user, you parse that one to integer, means convert whatever input you are reading to an integer, and place that particular input whatever you have read which has been converted to an integer onto the top of the stack. If you are not a parsing, then it will be considered as a string value, right? So what kind of a stack you are preparing? See, you are preparing a stack of an integer array, right? So on integer array, if you are reading a string, obviously it will show you error saying that incompatible types or a loose conversion, right? So array you are making it as an integer array. So I am parsing that particular input, whatever you are reading from the user, to a integer class, right? So that is with respect to push. Similarly, pop, whenever you are popping out an element, you are checking whether there are any element in a stack or not. So checking a condition top is equal to -1, right? If that is a state, then you are saying the stack underflow. Or else, whichever is the top element that you are displaying by using the system.out.println statement, right? Decrementing a top in the sense you are some means you are just making your pointer to point to a below element, right? So you will not be having a reference to a top element now. Okay, so similar lines, display method, If a top is equal to -1, then a stack is empty, no need to display anything. So if that is not the case, in a else part, from a top till the zeroth element of the stack, display everything. Right? So this is your static stack. That means you have given a size of a stack during the program itself. Right? So the next comes your dynamic stack, that is a D stack. So the difference between a S stack and a D stack will be only this constructor. With respect to S stack, you will be normally creating object. Later you will be specifying what should be the size of a stack. Here, while creating object of a D stack, you will be specifying a some size. So based on that size, you will be having a stack width. Right? Rest all the things will be same. Right? So checking the top again, stack overflow. If not, enter element into a stack. Pop, if it is -1, stack underflow, delete element from the stack. Right? So that is your stack. So in a stack interface, so this is your main program. You have options, right? So switch you are using. If you are choosing a 1 as an option, then you are going for a fixed stack. If you are choosing option 2, then you are going for a dynamic stack. 3 for the exit, right? So case 1, here you have a f stack object created. So while true, it will be displaying options, because even if it is a f stack, you have a 3 methods defined: push, pop, and a display. So those options it is showing. And you have a switch case, means if you are selecting 1, then push operation, 2 pop operation, 3 display operation, 4th it's a break and valid choice, right? So these are the things with respect to f stack. So similarly, with respect to another stack, that means a case 2, right? So this is a case 2, which is a dynamic stack. So even for a dynamic stack, same thing. While true, everything repeats same. So means only difference is this size, right? While you were creating a normal stack, so means static stack, you have not given a that particular size. But when you are creating a dynamic stack, you will be giving that particular size. Very kind. See, see, I'm using interface reference. See, I'm not using fstack obj is equal to new fstack, right? So interface reference has been used and the object of a class has been created. Interface reference has been used and the object of a class has been created by specifying a size, right? Operations are the same insert, that means push pop display operations itself, but different cases. That means once you are clear with your static stack, then you can use instructions you have with respect to static stack to dynamic stack, except that particular size value. Hope this is clear. Any questions? If no questions, then we will see your click event with respect to swings. Hope I was not fast in explaining the things. Okay. Shall we proceed with the swings then? Okay. I feel like, means from next week you will be having internals, right? So this class might be an officially last class with respect to Java. Okay. So at least then this class means, and it's a last class officially, right? So expecting a much response as it is a last class. Shall we? This was example which we have discussed in the last class. First I will show you what example is this one. Then we will discuss what exactly is a click event, right? So this was the application which we have discussed with respect to previous class when we were discussing introduction to a swing. So let me play this particular application. Yes, it is opening a one GUI whatever I have designed. So Here, if I click on this particular element, nothing is showing because I didn't write any instructions behind this particular button click event, right? Now, what I wanted to do is, if I click on this particular button, I just wanted to display some hi message. That means I just wanted to make sure that there is an interaction. That means if I click on this one, something is going to happen in the background. So that particular something is visible for me, right? I just wanted to make this particular button click an interactive one. Okay, so let us check how to do that one. Are you clear with the problem statement what I said? I just wanted to make this particular button an interactive one. That means if I click on this one, there should be something that is going to happen, right? Huh. So here is the source code for whatever the thing was appearing in front of you. So this is a place where you have a button, and it has got a text saying that click me, right? So now let us go to a decent part again. On this particular button there should be some event should happen, right? So before to that, keep an eye on these instructions whatever you have, right? You have a set content pan here. Don't worry what exactly is that one. I just wanted to show how many instructions it is going to add. If I'm going for a button click event action, how many instructions it is going to add, that I wanted to show you simply, right? So here I have a button called, I have an instruction called as j button click me is equal to new j button of a click me. So this is the statement which is there on the button, right? So I don't have any click event now. That means I didn't write any method. What has to be happen if you are performing any click on the button, right? So observe the things carefully. I have shifted to a design mode, right? Here on this particular click button, let me double click on this one, right? What I'm doing is on this button, I'm just double clicking. I didn't do any magic. So I just double clicked on that particular button. It has added a few instructions to me. What instructions it has added to me? I got object of a button click, right? Observe the things carefully because after this, I might be asking a few questions for you, right? Using a button click object, right? You have a method called as add action listener. This was the method it has created. I didn't write even a single line of a code, right? I just double clicked on that particular element which was there on our GUI part. Okay, so it has added a method called as add action listener, right? So what is the object for that? What it is taking? It is taking an object of new, in the sense I'm creating a something object, some object, right? Okay, new action listener, right? What it is doing is it is saying new action listener. That means this particular add action listener method, this particular add action listener method requires some listener object, right? Have you created a class of this one? No. Also means whenever you are writing a new means, obviously you will be specifying the class name, right? New, say if you have written a class X, then you will be writing a X some object is equal to new X, right? So whenever you are using a new means, then obviously the next statement will be a class, right? So now what I can say is this particular add action listener taking an object, that means it's calling a constructor of an action listener, right? So observe the things. You have a curly brace opening here. So after this curly brace you have a some method called as public void action performed, right? So what is the argument of this one? So it is taking a class. That means it is also taking an object which is called as action event E, right? Now what I will do is within this particular action performed here, within a method called as action performed. I will write one statement. What I will write is system dot out dot println. I just wanted to display some hi message, right? So what does it mean? What I have written? What are the things we have done? What we have done is on a design pan, we had a one button. I just double clicked on that particular button, right? It has created this method for me. Which method? Action performed is the method which will come under action, right? Whatever you are going to write within that particular action performed method, that will be executed when you are clicking on that particular button, right? So let me run the program once, then let me show you output, then we will do post-mortem on this. Here I got a button, means GUI part, whatever we have written, we have got. If I click on this, where we told to print output, we have written system dot out dot, right? So on a console, it will print the output. Yes. When I'm clicking on a button, it is showing me an output on my console. How many number of lines we have written to get this particular output? Only one line we wrote. System dot out dot println, whatever we wanted to print, that we have written, that statement. That means at that particular method. Is it not simple? Sir, means we also gave action performed method as a parameter to action listener. Okay. So this means directly doing this one might create some confusion if you are looking at a syntax of all these things, like what is action listener and all those stuff, right? We will do one thing. Previously we have done one example in J-edit also, right? Same example we have done. Okay, so I think 1 second, I have that example over here. Swing demo, I think. Okay. Let me just cross check. So means whether this one is the same example or what. CD swing. Okay. Java C. Right. So this was the same example. Here we didn't write any click event for this particular button, right? So let us means I will switch between those two tabs and I'll try to explain you why we have written those statements in that particular fashion, right? So another way also means it is not required to go in that particular way itself. We can go, so means we can write instructions in our convenience also, in our convenient way also, right? We will divide whatever the things were specified here. We have a button object, okay? On that particular button object, we need to have a method called as action listener, right? Okay. Now, what will be argument for this particular action listener? Argument for this particular action listener is object of a listener class, right? Means I'll be putting whatever the curly brace it is there here. So I'll be taking it as a separate statement. Means I'm going to end a statement here itself. So we will take that part in some other place, right? Now let me just copy this statement. Means not exactly copy. I might be confused with respect to this particular method name. So I'm just copying that particular method name. Okay, so where I had a button, this is a place where I have placed my button, right here. My object, so means the name of a button is b dot, right? So that is my button, right? J button, b is equal to new j button. Okay, I have a method called as action listener. Okay, I have a method called as action listener. So what it is taking? It is taking new some listener object it is taking, right? I will just write some name, right? So means even if you are not comfortable writing this particular name, I can write some name, right? So what is the intention is this particular object should be a listener object, right? What do you mean by listener object, sir? You are saying from that time listener object, listener object in the sense every event, right? Every event whatever you are going to create, so there will be a some interface which is called as action listener. Every event whichever you are going to create, for all those events there will be an interface which will be listening to all these events, right? In that particular interface, right? So what are interface? I said action listener interface, right? So in that particular action listener interface, you will be having a few methods. You need to override that method, right? So which method we have overridden here? We have overridden here a method called as action performed. Where exactly this action performed will be there? It will be there under an interface called as action listener interface, right? We'll proceed with this code, then you will understand what I am talking exactly, right? So here I said object is uh, this particular object, right? So obviously class name should be a this class, right? I want object of a this class now, right? Do we have a class means this particular Jagadish listener class in our program? We don't have. So let us create that particular class, right? So what is the purpose of this particular class? This particular class should implement what? It should implement action listener, right? When it is implementing some interface, obviously in an interface there will be some method. You need to override that method. What is the method that we need to override to make our button to listen to the click, right? So what was the method? Action performed was the method. So public void action performed, that was the method. What argument it was taking? It was taking some action event as a argument. Action event E. When you join to a company, so you will not be writing a hard coding, don't worry. So be remember what exactly these things are, right? No need to buy it, no need to worry about the spelling mistakes. Means after executing now also I may get a few spelling mistakes, I need to just cross check them, right? System dot out dot println, I just wanted to display a message, right? So let me repeat the things once again. Whenever you want your button to listen to the click events, right? First you will be calling a method called as add action listener. Action listener in this for that now, right? So when you are listening to action, obviously there should be a method for this particular thing, and the action performed is the method which will be under action, right? You need to tell what has to be done with respect to action performed, right? So now the button is listening to a listener, right? Okay, when you click, right, when you click there is some method to be executed. What is that method? That method is nothing but action performed method. Here, whatever you are going to write with respect to action performed method, so that is going to be executed. Let us just cross check. So means will it work or will it show any error? When I am using a action listener, I need to import one package. So that package is nothing but under AWT you have a something called as the events. So that package you need to import. Okay. Java C swing demo. Oh, there is some error. Public void action performed. Action event E. Okay. What is the error? Simply not incompatible types. Swing demo Jagdish listener cannot be converted to action listener. Okay. 1 second. A new action listener. Action event E. Class listener implements action listener. Here only it is showing error. Cannot find a symbol implements action listener. Again, spelling mistake might be there with respect to action listener. 1 second. I think A should be capital over there. 4 errors. Import cannot find a symbol action. Import statement error. Import java.awt.events. 1 second. I think it is event. Okay. When I click, we have written with respect to console. So yes, I'm getting output over here. Right. Okay, so here is the code. This is the package that we need to import whenever we are working with respect to event and with respect to buttons or any component, right? If you want to make that particular component as an interactive one, we need to use a method called as a action listener first, right? So action listener is nothing but an interface, right? You are adding this particular interface and this object, right? So whatever a new listener you have said, right? So this should be of a action listener type of a class, right? So this particular class should implement that action listener. So under action listener you have a method called as action performed. Whatever you are going to write with respect to action performed, that particular action will be executed, right? Here, say for example, I just wanted to know what will be there with respect to E, means what is stored with respect to E, right? So that will be having, E will be having your object, which is a B. That means whichever event has been raised, that particular action. Default capable is equal to true. What it is showing? Okay, so this E is having so much of information. 1 second. Java.event.action listener. So action performed, cmd click me. See, it is showing the things clearly. It is showing like 1 second. It is showing something like, so means I am just displayed a content of this particular object E, right? So it is showing that action event action performed, right? So what action it has performed on this particular click me button, right? So click has been happened, right? And where exactly that is there? See, it is showing maximum size, preferred size is equal to 0, default disabled icon, whatever the properties you have set with respect to that particular button, right? So everything will be stored in this particular E. That means this button is creating that particular event, right? Listener event, right? So complete details about this button will be stored under this particular E, right? So by using whatever the parameters you have used for that particular button, so all the parameters, all the description about that particular button, everything will be displayed. Say for example, you have specified set bounds as a 200, 200, 60, 60, right? So that will also be shown. See, 200, 200, 200, and 60. Okay, so it is clearly indication saying that on this particular button, if there is any action, so that action will be captured here, and whatever you are going to specify here, that will be action performed part. I got a question in the chat box. Sir, you are already importing all things under AWT. See, be clear with the packages, don't get confused. When I'm writing import java.awt.star, right? Here, whatever classes you have, whatever the class files you have under a folder called a AWT, package is nothing but a folder, I said, if you remember. Whatever the class files that you have under a AWT, everything will be imported, right? Whatever the class files that are there under AWT, everything will be imported. Now, when you see AWT dot event, that means under AWT you have a one more folder which is called as a event, right? The content of a events will not be imported. Whatever the class files that are there with respect to this folder, only those class files will be imported. Now what I'm saying is, under AWT you have a one more folder called as the event. Go to that particular event folder. Under that event, whatever you have, you load everything. You import all the class files of that particular event, right? So observe these statements carefully. If you have any questions, you can post those questions in the chat box. If you don't have a questions, then I have to give some conclusions. If no questions, I'm ready to confuse you. Okay, now I want a quick response for this particular question. Now, here, this particular name, is it a class name? Class name, okay. Why we have created this particular class? That means if I'm writing this particular class name, obviously somewhere I have to create this particular class, right? What is the purpose of this particular class writing over here? Obviously, the intention of writing this particular class is it has to implement an interface called as action listener. So under action listener, you have a method called as action performed method. This is, so means actually I wanted this particular action performed method. So I am implementing this particular interface by using this particular class. I didn't tell anything extra. Whatever things we have written till now, I just explained those things, right? I just told you what is the purpose of this particular uh, class name that we have written, right? Now, whether, I means there is no importance for this class. That means I don't want to have a separate class by writing a class, and I don't want to go with the implement of this particular action listener and all, right? Can I do the same operation in some other fashion? That means I don't want to go with a separate class and all, right? So intention of this class is, I don't have any special intention of this class. Intention of that one is just to implement this particular method, right? When you have only one method to be implemented or only one method need to be overridden, why I wanted to make a separate class for that? Right? So what this separate class is doing, it is just implementing this particular action listener, and the intention of implementing that one is to give a definition for this particular action performed method, right? I don't want to go with this one. I don't want, really don't want to have this particular class definition written, right? So what is the other alternative way is, I will just copy these instructions, right? Action listener, opening bracket, all these things, right? This is an interface, right? Now, I'll say Control X, just cut up those statements here. Let me add those statements, right? So where was that statement here? Okay, I don't want a class. I said I don't want a class now. New object, right? Means I have not yet closed. This is the closing of that particular statement. Semicolon over is over here, right? Huh. Let us just cross check. Let's throw any syntax errors. Let's say like what are the mischief things you have done and all. Will it scold me or what? Let us just cross check. It's not showing any syntax errors. Perfectly working. Right? You can write a program in this particular fashion. Also, what we are avoiding in this case is we don't want it to have this particular class name specified, and this particular concept is called as anonymous classes. Anonymous classes in the sense I don't know what is the name of that class. I'm directly creating object of that particular action listener. So directly calling implementing or whatever method I wanted to implement, right? I'm sure like this particular way of a programming may not be that much comfortable for most of you. Means if you are comfortable with the previous version, you can go, but I just wanted to show you like this is the concept of anonymous classes. Let me revert back to a previous version. Right. So this was a previous version. There I have a class specially which is implementing this particular action listener. So from here it will be calling here, right? So if you observe your Eclipse IDE here with respect to button action click listener, it is having a new action listener bracket opening bracket. So this concept, so means this particular statement here, it is using what is called as anonymous classes, right? So not as a part of a syllabus, just I wanted to show you these are the possible ways how you can handle your action. That means action on a particular UI component. Is it clear? Okay. One, I mean, I said like if you don't have any doubts, and then I wanted to give a few conclusions, right? So I hope you don't have any doubts with respect to example whatever I have shown. The conclusion which I wanted to give you is okay. So means initially itself I told you like officially this might be our last class. Okay. What a conclusion I wanted to give is um, if you observe the playlist which we have circulated, we have almost taken 60 plus hours class, 60 hours plus class. Okay, and as per my knowledge, in none of the classes means maybe one or two there might be some errors with respect to examples, maybe one or two maybe. Apart from that, in none of a concept we didn't take up the concept. Oh, more than 70, yeah. Wow, more than 70 classes. Super track record. Okay. Huh. In more than 70 classes, whatever we have studied, all the concepts I have taken with example only. None of the concepts I shown like this is like this. I didn't give. So means there is no example wherein which I didn't give you a programmatical conclusion of that particular concept, right? Out of these 70 plus, that means even after going through all these 70 plus classes, intention is to make you comfortable with respect to programming, right? When you see this particular application over here, right, if I want to make this particular button an interactive, I'm not writing anything. I'm just writing whatever is the logic with respect to that particular button click, only this much, right? All other things it itself has generated, no need of all these things, right? No need to worry about all these things now. But why we have taken up those many classes? You never felt this question? When means this is the action to be performed, why you directly go through this particular example? That means why you are explaining the things from a JEdit and writing each and every line for that particular explanation, and can't you directly design something like this? Just click on this, do the stuff, right? Can be done, but keep few things in mind. There will be a number of ways, as I already told you so many times, there will be a number of ways of learning a programming language, right? So one I said, by solving a few problematic questions, and the second one is by using a tool, right? So say for example, for this particular application itself, if I go to a source, it has generated all these lines for me, right? See, without understanding all these methods also, you can achieve whatever is the expected output, right? But once you understand what exactly these things are, say for example, JButton is a class, right? So for that particular class, you are creating object of a class, right, is equal to new. That means that this is a logical creation and this is a physical creation. Whatever is argument you are going to pass, that particular argument will be appear on that particular button, right? If you know each and every statement of this particular line, you will be more comfortable in taking up another tool also, right? Your software industry will be changing in a minutes also. Some means nowadays it is changing in terms of a months, but soon after few days it will be changing even with respect to minutes also, right? Now, what I mean to say is, if you are comfortable with the programming language, even if I give you some other new tool, you will be comfortable, because by looking at the source code, you will easily understand how the things have been architectured, right? So what is a class, what is a method, what is an object, what is an interface, what is an anonymous class, everything, right? Once you are comfortable with these things, you can easily play, right, where to write a what instruction. Right? If you don't know what exactly is a class, what exactly is an object, see, first statement itself is a public class, first application extends a JFrame. If you don't know what is the extends, then how this particular page looks to you? They have written something called as extend, whether it is a keyword, or is it is having any implicit meaning for this or what? Everything is a confusion, right? Correct. So what I mean to say you is, don't be in a hurry of developing something, or don't be in a hurry of learning everything at a first day. Okay, put some efforts, learn the basics, right? If you are comfortable in the basics, I'm saying if you are comfortable in the basics, right? Any tool, whatever the tool that company is giving, that a company is using, or whatever the tool that is trending in the market, okay, if that particular tool is using a Java, then you should say like, yes, if it is using a Java, then I am comfortable, no problem with respect to that. So I can easily understand what is the class, what is the interface. See, here it is using extend in the sense which concept it is using. It is using your inheritance concepts, right? So when it is using inheritance concepts, you should clearly have an idea, right? So there is some class called as a JFrame, so it is extending all the properties from that particular JFrame. All the properties in the sense, what are the properties? What are the properties that are there with respect to a public? All the public properties it is extending to this particular class. Now whatever the public methods that are there with respect to JFrame will be available for your first application also, right? What I'm going to say is, once you know the language, right, using the tools will become comfortable. Okay, If you are getting an Android tool, that then you have to just understand how exactly the tool works first, right? Initially it might be a tough to understand how exactly tool works, but once you know how exactly the tool works, then again writing the same Java code itself, right? So this is a request from my side, because I have seen so many people, even after finishing their graduation engineering of 4 years, after finishing 4 years of graduation, they will take up some course on a Java, right? They will spend some 6 to 8 months on learning a Java once again, and then they will get the job. Okay, don't go till that extent. Learn the basics of a Java here itself through that particular 70 plus videos, right? In any of the video, if you have any confusions or any clarifications to be given, I will be ready to give those clarifications to you, right? I have only one goal, means only one intention in a teaching. My intention is clear. Whenever you come across, say for example, in this semester I have taken a Java to you, right? Wherever you come across some question with respect to Java, or if you have done anything with respect to a Java, then complete credit should go to me only. That is only selfishness that I have now, not only now. So that is only selfishness which I wanted to have, and I am cultivating that one, right? Intention of a mine is clear. I made more than 70 hours of a class with respect to Java. I don't want my students again go and pay some 20,000, 30,000 for the same course, enroll for the course, sit in the crowd of some 150 or 200 people, same way listen to the things. I don't want these things to be repeated in your life again, right? So don't waste your time, don't waste the money. Whatever the stuff I have given with respect to those playlists, right? Go through those things, go through the material I have shared, go through the examples which we have discussed. You will be so much comfortable with respect to Java. That is my assurance, right? So if you have any questions or a feedback or a information that you wanted to share, open for that for another 5 minutes. If you don't have anything to be shared, any questions to be asked, nothing to be discussed with me, so you can leave the session. Have a nice day. Do well for the intervals.